When something crazy happens in someone's own hand, it's a very special and different kind of magic trick. Usually in magic we think about stage magic and then stand-up, or they sometimes call it parlor magic, and then close-up magic. But for me, within close-up magic, there's a whole variety of subsections. And I really do think that when something happens in the spectator's own hand, that's its own category. That's its own category. Now, obviously, tricks that are so small that they happen in the spectator's hand are not always great for larger audiences. You're at a party and you're doing a couple of tricks, that's cool, and all of a sudden you look around, there's 15 people who want to be entertained. Well, you need to do a slightly bigger trick. And I would not suggest that warning is that trick for you at that point. However, in a bar or in different situations where you're just doing an intimate trick, this is so powerful. And there's so many, I'm going to teach you on the tutorial. Probably what's going to occur to you is a surprising variety of different ways you can reveal playing cards with this, okay? There's some I'm going to show you something that's super simple that I've done a million times that works so well, just in itself, okay? Then we'll take it to the next level. I'll show you a couple of variations, some stuff. It's all quite easy. I'm going to show you a really knacky way to present it very visually on the table, sort of out of your hands it happens. So a whole bunch of stuff with this. So heading in, keep in mind, this is something that I really think of when I do it. I really do it almost always as the simple one that happens in the spectator's hand, but I'll show you a couple other versions of that as well. I also want to mention just again, as one of my favorite themes in magic, is doing the extraordinary with the ordinary. And, you know, as I mentioned on the preview for this trick, I always have a lighter on me. I usually have 2 or 3, actually. I'll have a couple in a case, because when I go to a gig, I always have a case, some kind of case I tuck in a closet or tuck off in the corner somewhere safe, in a bedroom, and then go, walking around, and doing the house gig or whatever it is. And in the case, I usually have a couple of lighters. So since I have one of these anyways, one of my big things for me is how could I get the most magic, the greatest variety of effects, the greatest possible moments I can do with people with the items I have on hand. A deck of cards, of course, you can do 100 different things. A thumb tip, maybe you have in your working repertoire 4 things you do with a thumb tip. Anyway, and I do a bunch of things with cigarette lighters, vanishes and appearances and this and that. And I use them in also pocket management. And I may touch on this again or not, but if you're just getting into magic, a lighter is a great thing it allows you to go to your pocket and use it as a magic wand, a little bit of heat to make this happen, a little bit of this and that. So having something so small that I have a perfect excuse to go to my pocket allows me to do deck switches, allows me to ditch coins, allows me to this and that, all right? Last thing I want to mention here in the intro to warning is, please, particularly if you're a younger person, fire, even just the simplest flame, okay? Fire is extremely dangerous, has enormous potential, obviously, to do real damage in a person's life. So please, with all fire tricks that I release and anything you practice with, be very, very careful. And if you're really quite a younger person, then I encourage you to get some parental supervision when experimenting with any tricks involving fire. Danger. Extremely flammable. Contains flammable gas under pressure. Do not use near open flame. Keep out of reach of children. You'll see that the labels you've received with this trick are 3 different labels. You have several of each of the 3 different labels. And all 3 can reveal playing cards, including this one. I'll get back to this one. But even this beginning one, there's a way you can reveal playing card just even in this label as well. Now, of course, people generally, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different handlings, but people, of course, cannot appreciate a change from one thing to another until you draw attention to the first thing. And then it changes, right? So you need to draw attention. And so I've used a few different lines over the years to draw attention. I'll take out a lighter, it'll have this label on it. I'll take it out, look at it, and I'll show it to people. I'll say, have you ever really taken a close look at the writing on these warning labels? Have you taken a close look? So now, if all you're going to say is take a really close look, then they know something's up. You're drawing a suspicion to this and focus to this in the wrong way. So what I do is I say, have you really taken, and I make sure people get a glance at it, and then I always mention a fact is that it says keep away from an open flame, but how am I supposed to do that? Because right now it's an open flame. Sort of paradoxical trying to keep a lighter away from an open flame. Now, it's no huge gag, but it allows me to sort of theatrically justify, why am I drawing attention to this? So I don't say, here is a magic trick, look at the label. I'll be using the lighter and something, glance down and say, have you ever taken a look at the label? The writing on these things? It's sort of ridiculous. I mean, the idea of keeping away from an open flame, well, how am I going to do that when the thing actually creates an open flame? Okay, so that allows me to draw attention, but and then diffuse it and move on. So it's sort of a nice way to get all the ingredients going that I need for this trick. I need them to see initially it started a certain way and then change it to something else. The other line I sometimes say is, keep out of reach of children. Like, duh, you mean you're not going to hand this to them lit and maybe along with an Uzi or a hunting knife? So I'll make some joke again about the keep out of reach of children line as well. And that way now I've got everything locked in. They've seen the label, they've seen it was just a standard kind of label, and now any transformation is going to be shocking for them. Now, there are a bunch of different things I'm going to show you for this, but let's see, before each of the handling, some of the handlings I'm going to show you, for example, just has, this is the 3 of spades one, okay? Now, one of the handlings I'm going to show you, this is the only lighter you need, okay? You don't need to switch lighters, switch labels, nothing. It's just the 3 of spades. So sort of that's one of the ones I have prepared in my case. It's just that one, all right? Another one here, again, is got on one side has the standard, flame warning, and then on the other side has the 6 of clubs reveal on the other side. And notice that they're not facing, and this is important if you're going to use any of the paddle move stuff, because the paddle move requires you to revolve this secretly, all right? So you're going to want it facing down on one side and facing up on the other, all right? Because they're both facing the same way. When you do the revolve, when you do the secret turnover, the second label is going to be upside down, and you don't want not much of a reveal, okay? And then on the third one here, I just have the standard. Just the warning label on one side, the standard, and then nothing on the other side. So these are a few. Now, like I said, I'll show you some handlings. You'll be able to decide which ones you want to use, which is going to work best for you. The other thing I wanted to point out, too, is I could have designed these, okay? I could have designed these. So on one side, it just has the lines of standard text about the warning label and the kid. And then on another label, it could have 6 of clubs in really big letters, okay? But that's not the way I went. And the reason I didn't go that way is because several years ago, many years ago, I was working on the bill switch. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the bill switch technique, where you change one bill for another. And I found that when the $5 bill changed to the $100 bill, people never looked at the $100 bill very, very closely because they just assumed I had switched bills. But when I started developing tricks, say, for example, on a $5 bill, I've punched a hole in one corner and I've drawn a target. And on another $5 bill, I've drawn the same target and the hole is now in the middle. I found that when things happened to the bills, where it wasn't like an obvious switch, but it seemed to have something happen to the bill rather than the whole bill itself being switched in and out, people believed it more. There was more credibility. So in the same way with this design, rather than having it change completely to something like the picture of a playing card or something that would shout switch, instead I have every line, the original text, okay? I keep it looking very similar. The only thing that's changed is now all the small text is all reading, of course, 6 of clubs, 6 of clubs, 6 of clubs. And as a result of that, when I perform this in different handlings, I find people really want to look at the labels very carefully, okay? Which can be quite fun, depending on the moment and the beat and all that kind of thing. Anyway, those are a few points about the labels. Let's jump into some of the handlings. When it comes to switching one of the lighters for one of the other lighters, I don't do anything fancy at all, okay? Now, when I do coin tricks and card tricks and dollar bills, there's different kinds of switches I might use, sleight of hand switches or sort of almost optical illusion switches and things. For this, all I ever do is if I've had the lighter examined or if I've used the lighter in a trick or something, I take it back, I go in my pocket to get a deck of cards with the other hand or to get a coin with the other hand or whatever I'm going to do, get a cloth, paper napkin, whatever. This hand that's got the lighter goes in my pocket, I grab the other lighter and I grabbed it. So I go in like this and the other lighter's like this or I come out like this. I mean, I've done all these things, never been caught, okay? No one's looking for you to switch a lighter before the trick, All right? So keep that in mind. I'm also going to show you something where you can introduce the lighter. And notice too, and I'll point this out very soon, that, you know, when you take a lighter out and it's got a label on it, nobody even notices. I mean, everybody, they're so ubiquitous. Everyone knows there's often a warning label on these lighters. It doesn't even draw attention to itself. All right, so keep that in mind. So when it comes to switching lighters and during these handling, I'm going to teach you when I say, you know, you switch in, you switch out, whatever, all I ever do it. And not just jacket pockets. I've done it in vests, right? When sometimes I wear a loose vest. And, of course, pants pockets, even jeans. Most of my jeans, I deliberately buy my jeans. They're not too tight. The front pockets are usually kind of loose. And I can always have a lighter in there and switch one for the other. I've even, during performances at bars and things, you know, I'll put the lighter in one pocket and then a moment later realize, hey, I want to go into that trick. And I'll take it out of the other pocket. Nobody ever notices, all right? So when it comes to switching lighters, it's always about going to my pocket to get other things, and nobody, I mean, I can take it out, hand it to them, have them hold on to it, whatever. It's never an issue. Very much one of those situations where as long as you don't sweat it, no one's going to care that you switched a lighter before or after a trick. The first reveal I want to share with you is definitely the most practical and basic of them all, because you're just going to use one lighter, okay? And you're not even going to use the standard warning label on it, because people are aware of it anyway. I've got the 3 of clubs, a warning label on this one lighter, and that's all I need. I can put this in my pocket, go out for the night, and amaze people. Okay, I can use the lighter for different kinds of things, and a magic wand, and this and that. And at one point, I can force the 3 of spades on somebody, have them put it back in the pack, and say, I'm going to see if we can get a sense of what, I'm going to use a magic wand, you're actually going to use this lighter. Okay, going to use this, and maybe I'll put the cards in the case and wave them around the case, or actually hand and say, would you take this, and I want you to flick it on. They flick it on, see if you can wave it under the case, whatever. And then I say, you're concentrating your card, and they are, and they say, okay, I'll get a sense here. Concentrate. Okay, do me a favor. Open your hand. And often they'll do this. They open this hand. I say, no, the other hand. And they open it up, and I'll say, take a look at the label. And just by them finding out that in their hand, so notice there's no transformation. There's no real change. What happens is you've got this, and this is one of the things I love about this, this whole warning and these labels, is it's a secret weapon in plain sight, all right? You can put this on the table, even label up. People don't even notice. It's just, oh, there's a label, so people don't even notice. So that's the simplest. No switch required. Just force, and one of your favorite forces, whatever. 3 of spades. Definitely have it in their hand if you can, okay? But even if it's not in their hand, if they select and they feel they've selected any card, and this lighter's been on the table, whatever, you use it for another trick. Now, you could simply, if you want, take it, and it appears in their hand, and they look at it, or you say, concentrate, think of it, and bring this up. And as you bring this up into view, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with a paper napkin at the same time. I say, you concentrate on your card, because I'm going to try to do something with the warning label on the cigarette lighter. And I slowly wipe it, let sort of only lean in so they can see the reveal. Boom. And by doing this across it, obviously when you come up and as soon as you draw attention, you want to make sure you've completely covered it. Okay, whether you're going to use your finger or this or the actual card itself. I've done that too, where you force the card, okay? And you say, well, let's try something here. You know, boom, you come up here and you say, watch, you're going to just wipe it against this. And it's very important as you hold it up that they don't first get a glimpse of the 3 of spades writing on it. You want to kind of come up and time it and say, watch, and just this action here. Love this kind of trick because it all comes down to the theater of it. So often when you're performing magic, sort of amateur magicians lose those moments that actually make the trick magic. They give it that sense of that beat, that wonder. You need that beat. And this kind of so simple trick, just by rubbing the card against the label. And again, remember, I have not shown the warning label beforehand. Okay? I'm going to talk about that in a second, but you don't even need to do that. Just this is magic, okay? So it's a playing card, or it could be a paper napkin, right? Or it could be just your thumb wiping across it, let's say, or even your fingers. You could just sort of wipe your hand across it like that, and as you lean in, you time that so that there's this sense as you lean in, you drag the one finger down, move the other fingers away. That changes like that. It could happen in the card case too. Now, all of the things I'm showing you here, of course, would also add another level of magic, not just a reveal of a card, but a change of the label itself. If prior to this, okay, if earlier on you did something with the lighter, and you wanted to carry 2 lighters, okay? So that this is with the standard warning label thing. And so in a previous trick, what you're doing is, and again, you can't name a single trick to me, none of your tricks, that you can't incorporate this in some way. in a mist, just wave it as a magic wand or put it in your hand, see if we can cause something strange to happen with a coin trick or whatever it is. You can definitely incorporate this. So earlier when you brought this out, you said we're going to do something with the lighter here, and you go, have you ever really taken a close look at the, and you do the bit about drawing attention to the label like this, and then you use that for the trick. Then you say you're going to try something else, let's try a card trick, whatever, or you're just putting away the card case even. And again, you switch in the lighter. Now, force the 3 of spades, right? And you can even have them holding this from the beginning, or this is just lying on the table. And again, it doesn't have to be lying on the table face down. You can have it lying face up. No one's going to look at it, okay? It's just there. So force the 3 of spades. Now, of course, when you hold this up here and say, watch, I'm just going to rub it against with a paper napkin, now they see it's changed. Well, now you got 2 beats of magic coming together, okay? Because you've got, of course, it's changed. And for it to change to anything, if it just then suddenly wrote magic, 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 magic on the label, that would be a cool trick by itself. But the fact that it's changed to the one card they're thinking of, or the one card they selected, now you've got this double level magic happening. You're going to get a very powerful reaction at that point. Okay, so different ways to theatrically present the change. Like I said, rub it with your finger, rub it with the card. I really quite like that, rubbing it with the card. There's something about that that's cool. Now notice too, is if you have them touch a card, but nobody sees the card. Okay, have them touch a card or take a card, but do not look at it, or they call stop and you thumb it off onto the table using a force. Okay, then you can take the card that nobody knows. And you can take the lighter and you say, watch. And you can rub the card and keep, no one's seen the card yet. Rub it on the label that maybe the label they saw earlier, okay? Now they can see it says 3 of spades, which in itself is a great change, right? And then you turn over this, you get a second beat of theater. So that way it's boom, boom, rather than a card that they know and then the change, which works too. But this, I think, has a slightly different feel to it, maybe a two beats to it, all right? So there's that way you can present this too. Put it in the card case. Okay, if it's not wrapped in a paper napkin or held in someone's hand, you could have it in the card case. You got a deck of cards with you, and maybe you got the case there. So in that case, of course, you can have, excuse the pun in that case, but someone can select a card, blah, blah, like this, and then you can at that point, they're thinking of a card, and you go, let me try something. The lighter's still there. Didn't make it vanish. Didn't do anything to the lighter. What I was trying to do is see if I could create some magic with the warning label on the lighter. Then you take that out. So, and you can show that. So that's a way to get a little bit of an audio component to make the climax, the magic, bring it to life as something that's not just happens in a second, but something that happens over a couple of beats. Okay, there's that. Now, let's take a quick look at this. Of course, you got this very visual change here, okay? Here, the paddle move, right? Where you're here, they can see that, okay? Maybe they looked at it earlier like this, and you have them concentrate on their card and stare at the label, okay? And they do that, and I just want to make sure it's in focus here, right? They see this, and then you get this change in full view. Boom. Now, that's super visual. Okay, that gets great reactions. Will they want to look at the lighter at this point? Yes. So in that regard, what you need to do is you need to structure things so that maybe you've done a riffle force, they stop at a card, whatever, put it down, and they put their hand on it, and someone else puts their hand. A few people put their hands on top of the card. Nobody has seen the card, which means that when you do the change from extremely flammable, okay, and what I'm doing is I'm doing the traditional paddle move where I am with my thumb, okay, I'm rolling it over. I'm rolling it over. But you'll find, well, you can do it down here, in sort of down in this kind of thing. What you can do instead, I find too, is you can use much the same technique by holding it directly towards them so they can see it more clearly. So all I'm doing here with my thumb is as I wave it up and down, I roll it over, right? Okay? So as I wave it up and down, I'm just rolling it over, and you get this really pretty where it's here. They can see extremely flammable. You take it. You concentrate, or you're like this, and you say, okay, everyone's holding onto a card. Let's see now, and you do the change here, the wave, boom. They see this impossible change, which works beautifully. Now you redirect the focus. You go, boom, like this, and say, lift up. Imagine if when everybody lift up your hands, let's take a look. And as they're doing that, this you just go south. Just put it in your pocket, you're done. Boom, there's the card. Good piece of magic. Now, If you really love this one version of this trick and you want to really sort of use it as a showpiece, obviously you can have a second lighter in your pocket. So the only two lighters you would use for this one is the one that has danger on one side, 6 of clubs on the other, okay? And then you'd have a second lighter with just the 6 of clubs on it in your pocket. That way you can initially take this out of your pocket. Notice too, if you want, you could even show both sides of this, and by that I mean, let me put this down here like this. Show you this. Really important when doing magic to not have too many assumptions that are slowing you down, okay? Now, most cigarette lighters that come with a label only have a label on one side, but I have come across a couple that have a label on both sides. So notice what you can do is you can take this out. Say, hey, okay, we're going to use this lighter. And then you can even draw attention to the fact that it's got a label on both sides. It's got one of those extremely flammable labels on both sides. And I'm just doing the traditional paddle move, okay? And typically what you do is, because you don't want them to see, if you have this here and you do the paddle move, when you turn it over, this should still be oriented down here, right? But if you do the secret turnover while you're doing it, it jumps up. Right? It starts down, and then when you do it, it jumps over to the top, which on an unconscious level could give away the technique. So, typically, you're hiding this in the hand here, okay? So they don't actually see how it's oriented when you turn it over, okay? They don't see the fact that it's moving even as you do it. Now, so my point is you could show that you could take this out and show that, and even show the fact that it's got one on each side, okay? It's got an extremely flammable label on both sides. That way, you've said there's two, so that when you do your change here, where here this is, okay, and then you go boom, and it changes, the idea is that only one of the labels just changed, and you can hand this out to be examined. Now the fact that there are two labels, one on each side, is not suspect, because you started by showing this one's got two labels, okay? And you showed very fairly that, you did your line about extremely flammable, or you take it out and you go, well, I guess they're really getting very serious about this because this has actually got one on both sides, you can see, okay? And having shown both, then you do this change I was talking about, boom, gorgeous visual change, and you can hand it out. Now, Richard Sanders gave me an idea years ago. He was playing with some paddle stuff, and this notion of giving the spectator a choice. I love this, okay, where you can come out here, show the extremely flammable, say, actually, I've got it's got extremely flammable written here. In fact, I got another one here. I'm going to try something with one of them. Do you want me to do something crazy with the one on the top or the one on the bottom? Something insane, top or bottom, your choice. Now, if they choose the one on the top, well, then you just do what we were talking about, where you do this, and they see the one on the top just impossibly changed. If, on the other hand, you're holding it here and you say, do you want the one on the top or do you want the one on the top or the one on the bottom? And if they say the bottom one, you say, fine, hold it in your hand and leave it right the bottom one against your flesh. Close your fist, don't let me get near, and make sure the bottom label that you chose, make sure there's nothing I can do. Then you have to look at a card, force a card, whatever, and then when they open their hand, you say, okay, you said the bottom label, take a look. And they turn and they see it's changed. So what a brilliant way to diffuse, in a sense, the fact that you are using two labels and to be able to show the same label on both sides, and then one of them changes to match the card, and you don't have to switch. So that's another way you could do this. Obviously, as I was mentioning earlier, if you wanted to only do a single label version, right? Then when you go to your pocket, you can switch after they lift their hands, reveal the card. You can switch in for one that just has the 6 of clubs on one side. You can hand that out as well, okay? So those are a few options. Now, I've got a few more things I really want to share with you. So that's the which side do you want, which I like. You got the in the air toss, which is nice and visual. This is Naki. I came up with this years ago. I used to perform it with another paddle routine, a small little paddle routine. I want to show you this one now here, though. It is knacky as hell. I bet I don't even hit it very easily on the tutorial. You can show extremely flammable here, okay, very, very fairly, okay? You can even, what I'll sometimes do is I sort of slide it over and say, take a close look at that, and I keep my finger on it as if to say, I don't want you picking it up, but just take a look at, see the text right there, and I'll do this and slide it, hold it. That way they'll look in, they'll see it, but they won't pick it up, okay? Because I don't want them picking it up and revealing this, right? So, I'm here. And with some practice, and it's just that side showing, with some practice, you'll see that you're able to actually flip it. Oh, I give it a twist over under cover of the toss, okay? Now, it'll take some practice to make it look good, okay? So here's my, all my extremely blah, 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 and I take it, and I do it once, and then I show them, boom, it's changed, okay? And it's a knacky thing, like I said, as you're turning it, as you're twisting it, you're gonna push it over with your thumb. It's a lot like the paddle move in a sense, but you're gonna incorporate that action into the larger action of the twirl and make it impossibly change. So that's an I love it, because years ago I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I can come up with a way, rather than holding it in my hand and making it change, have it happen during a spin on the table. So that's my solution to that. So you can do that one as well. Now, I think I've covered all these different reveals I wanted to show you, except there's one last one. Is that my favorite? Yeah, this is probably my favorite. So, if you're just gonna do, okay, let's say you want to do a one lighter version, and let's say you don't want to use that clever double-sided where you show it on two sides and then you change one side, whatever, with the shake or the rub or whatever. Let's say you just want to carry around the 3 of spades, that's it. In that case, let's really goose the magic, okay? Let's really make the most of it. Where's our 3 of spades here? There it is over there. All right. So what you can do is this, all right? Maybe you've used this before in a previous trick. Maybe you haven't, okay? You've got your 3 of spades on top, and that's all you need, okay? So let's say I'm going to use a force now, and let's go with a simple riffle force where I cut the pack, keep a break with my left pinky, right? And maybe I'll say, look, I don't want you reaching in and grabbing a card. Instead, just say stop whenever you want. They say stop, I cut the break, and I say take a look at a card. And so they peek at the card. It's not removed from the deck, and that's real. To me, there's a world of difference between a card being removed from the deck and a world just being peeked. And I make a, I think this can often be stronger. So they're peeking at a card, take the cards back, square them up, and give them a cut. And all I've done is cut the selection to the top of the deck. Okay? And I say, look, let's try something. Fire is magic. I think there's something amazing about fire. We're going to see if we can do something here. So I want you to take the lighter and I want you to get ready to flick it on. You hand it to them, and again, maybe once in many years I've had someone look at the label earlier, whatever, but just say take the lighter, hold it on the count of 3 and 1, and if you give them a job, if you say I want you to take this and in 3 seconds flick it on, then all their focus is there. They don't want to screw up the magician's trick typically. So you hand this to them, and on 1, 2, 3 they flick the flame, and now you just do a double lift and say 8 of hearts. Any chance with that your card? They say no. You say watch, and you wave the card over the flame. Now not too close to burn it, but just sort of up here like this. You're waving the card, and now you turn it over. Now you and I both know if you've ever done a simple card change, it gets a great reaction. But I wanted to build on that. So you say turn that over, boom. People go, oh my God, it's the 3 of spades. I say, if you think that's crazy, look at the label on the lighter. And when they look at the label of the lighter and it says 3 of spades, 3 of spades, 3 of spades, and it was in their hand, maybe even before they called stop at a card, it's a prediction trick, it's a sort of implied transformation, it's an explicit transformation, gets a beautiful reaction, builds so well. So this is one of my favorite things to do with these labels, is just the lighter, one label, and a force and a double lift. Hits hard every time. I've also used this collection of labels to reveal 2 cards in certain ways, okay? And probably the most magical is to initially introduce the lighter, draw attention to the traditional warning label with the lines, whatever, okay? And then at some point, switch that for one of the lighters that has the 3 of clubs on one side and the 6 of spades on the other. So no warning, none of the traditional warning labels. It's a double label, but one's got the 6 on one side, one's got the 3 on the other. In that case, what you can do is now, and I'll do a couple of different things on that. So I've introduced and what you can do is you can introduce the initial, okay, and even maybe use the idea of showing a traditional warning label on both sides using the paddle move, this rolling over thing. So you draw attention to it, make the comment, say, in fact, you'll see that this one actually has a lighter on both sides. You're doing the paddle move to show casually it's on both sides. After doing that, so now they know, first, it's a lighter with 2 labels, and the second, it's got to the traditional warning on both sides, fine. Then I switch in the one with the 3 on one side, the 6 on the other, okay? And now you can, of course, have 2 cards forced, okay, and then reveal the 2. One can be revealed one way, you go boom, and then that gets a gasp, and then, of course, then you can reveal it the other way. What you can throw in there if you want, which is kind of neat, is the first card, and sometimes I'll do this. I'll have someone, I'll force a card on someone and say, oh, wait a second, I'm sorry, let me have your card back. I haven't done anything for Sheila. Let me do this trick for Sheila. And I turn. And I act like I'm done with that card. That person, that card, it's done, and all the focus is here. So that plants a seed. It allows me to do something that seems very improvised. And so what I can do is force a card on Sheila, right? Take out my, have my double-sided label, and everyone knows the double on both sides, okay? I can, let's say she's thinking of a card, I wipe my hand on it, boom, and look, it's the 6. And it's not just the 1, it's actually the 6 on, and then I do the paddle move to casually show them that it's the 6. Both labels on both sides have changed, and now I've revealed the 6 on both sides. So now I'm really far ahead. So now what I can do if I want is I can then on the offbeat say, wait a second, Tom, you chose a card too, didn't you? And he goes, yeah. I said, ain't you still remembered? He goes, yeah. And so now I'm in a situation where I can literally show the 6, do the wave change if I want. He gets to see the 6 change into the 3, okay? And then I can hand everything out and they can see there's a 3 on one side and a 6 on the other. So this is another way. There's, if you wanted to do it where you reveal 2 cards, one way you can do it is just having the 2, one on one side, one on the other, and either do a straight up, like 2 forces in a row, or sort of forget about that first force and then come back to it as an improvised moment. You can also use the specially designed lighters to reveal 4 other cards, because you'll see down here, there's a patent. I just put down there, U.S. patent 2467 down there, 2467, because I thought, why not give me another situation where I can reveal 4 more cards in a very cool way, okay? So 2467, so now what that means, and you can do this, I'm going to give you couple of pointers here. I've got my 2, my 4, my 6, and 7 on top, okay? 2, 4, 6, 7 are right on top of the deck there, all set to go. Now I can do a very simple riffle force, right? I take the cards, maybe turn them over, do a little bit of a Hindu shuffle here, making sure I don't disturb the top block of cards, just sort of grabbing cards from in the middle, and then putting them on top, okay? In middle, put them on top, right? That way they stay right where I want on top. Then I take the cards, right? And I'm gonna cut them and keep a break. I'm gonna use this riffle force again, it's so easy. Say, do me a favor, call stop whenever you want. They call stop, you cut the pack right there, and you say, I'm gonna put these cards, first 4 cards on the table like that, all right? Now, whether or not they're already holding the lighter in their hand, or whether or not this is just lying on the table, and how you want to present is totally up to you. But what's really cool is to say, okay, you could have stopped at any 4 cards or whatever, and say, do me a favor, do you see any numbers on here? Is there any numbers? And they're looking, and they see, well, yeah, I see a 2, a 4, and a 6, and a 7. I say, wouldn't it be crazy at 2? And then, of course, you're over here, and you go, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So what I love about this is rather than just one impossible moment, which is great for magic, no question, there's a building quality. Boom, 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 and boom. All right? Now this in itself is a great way. So, again, they could be holding their hand. And let me show you the force, another force here, 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay? You can have these, and you might want to put pencil dots, because what I find in live performance, things get a bit crazy. So if I put a pencil dot on the 2, near the very front of it. The 4 penciled out a little further down, the other one a little further down, 6, and the 7 on the bottom. It means I can always know at a glance which is the 2, which is the 4. So when I turn them over, I've got the right order, right? Now, if I have those on the bottom of the cards, okay, what I can do is I can say, hold on to the lighter, they do. I can say, hold out one finger, and I want you to touch a card for me. In fact, touch another one, touch. And I can have them with their Peter pointer touch 4 random cards, okay? So I'm going to use the Vernon substitute transfer. This is so cool. They touch a card, I out-jog it. They touch a card, I out-jog it. They touch a card, I out-jog it. The last one, I out-jog it. I say, so you could have touched any 4 cards. They say yes. And I said, and I'm sure you'll agree, you really did have a fair choice of any of them. And they say yes. And then, of course, we've got our 7, our 6, our 2, our 4, and our 2. Boom, okay? Right across there. Sorry, I want to make sure that's obviously on camera. There you go. Now, the Vernon substitute transfer can be done in a few different ways, but it's the bottom 4 cards, right? And typically, if they're already on the bottom, what I'll do is I'll say, I'm going to spread out the cards and I want you to touch one. And in the gesture of saying I want you to touch one and closing it back up, I've got the break I need at the bottom. You don't want to wait till after all 4 cards are touched, okay? To now go down here, see your 4, and get your break underneath, okay? That's a lot of work at the wrong moment. Instead, it's better to be able to go, I'm going to spread out the cards, and in a moment, I'm going to have you touch 4 cards, and then I can close it up, having now already got my break, my pinky break, okay? Now, spread out, a card's touched, a card's touched, a card's touched, a card's touched, 4 touched. I kick these to the side. It's called a straddle grip. I come over, kick them to the side, okay? And I'm going to apparently strip them out, but what really happens is these cards below go along for the ride, okay? I'm going to move these, but it's underneath the spread. Nobody sees anything. And this action of stripping them out and takes just a second. So you've got 2 options here. For just a second, I've got all 8 cards with a pinky break between them. Now, I can either come swing back, use the left fingers and thumb to square the cards, dropping off the 4 they touch, and put that off to the side. Okay, leave me with the 4 I want. Or, a slightly more advanced version that I performed for you guys a minute or 2 ago was having I strip them out. Remember, these are coming along for the ride. All 8 come out, okay? Then I swing back, and my hand is going to, my finger and thumb, the right middle finger and right thumb, are going to grab the corners of these cards and turn everything over and onto the table. A larger action to cover that. But look how clean the switch looks now. Go ahead, touch a card, touch a card, touch a card, touch a card. Okay, I think you'd agree. You could have touched any of these cards, okay, any ones, but you narrowed it down to these 4. So it's that extra flip over it really covers. But either way, you've been able to force 4 cards. And I want to leave with one last point here about using the numbers. The patent number there is, how perfect is it for you to actually force 5 cards, all right? Let's say we are going to use the riffle force technique. So you've got our 5 force cards on top. The 4 cards for the number, the patent number, and this would be one of the force cards, say the 6 of clubs force card on the label. That way what I can do is I can cut the pack, they call stop, I can say hold on to this card for me, and somebody holds on to that card under their hand. Then you deal your cards out here, and maybe they're holding the lighter too, whatever. You've got your reveal, and you can say, take a look at your, and they see on there, they see on the, they see the patent number. Boom, okay? And you might even say, I'll come back to that later. But then when you put these away, notice that if you want, and again, if this was one of your force cards, when you put everything away, this is when it'd be a great time to switch your lighter, okay? So I'll come back to that card in a bit, putting things away, like this, and you can even put your cards away in the card case. You know, maybe you switch the lighter, go into your pocket for the card case. Take the cards, put them in the card case. Say boom, and you can almost act like you forgot about his card. And when people say, well, what about so-and-so's card? You go, oh, yeah, sorry, okay, here we go. And then you do the rub. And if you only put the label on one side, then this can be examined now, okay? And they can find, boom, it matches. So what a great, I mean, talk about a great way to close your show, or really a powerful way to reveal first 4 cards, then the 5th card, and have a change of the label as well. I want to share with you a few other card forces I've used over the years. I know that this is, you may well be an advanced sleight of hand magician and know 5 or 10 different forces that you love to use. I want to show you a couple of really simple 1-card forces here, just in case you're new into magic, okay? And these are traditional 1-card forces. They've been used for many years. They're very strong, very dependable. Certainly the crisscross force is one of the classics, okay? Let's say we're going to go with our 3 of spades, okay? We want to force the 3 of spades so we can do this very cool trick with the lighter, all right? 3 of spades on top of the deck, all right? You have someone say, look, I want you to choose a card, and we're going to do it in a very fair, we're going to have you cut the cards, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to lift off as many cards as you want, okay? As many cards as you want, as few, maybe somewhere around the middle, though, for the ultimate random factor. Somewhere, and we're going to lift off some cards. They lift off some cards, they put them off to the side. That's what they do. You say, look, very fairly, we're going to mark the exact spot where you cut. Then maybe you'd introduce the lighter, okay? And again, you'd say, take this off here, and we're going to do this, and you go, boom, I tell you what, we're going to try something with the lighter here, and we just want to make sure it works. Beautiful. You hold on the lighter hand like that, okay? So you've had a little bit of a time lapse between when they cut the cards and now they're holding on the lighter, or maybe the lighter, put it in the card case like this, okay? Like that. Okay, they've got their hand on top. And you say, so let's see exactly which card you cut to. You cut to the 3 of spades. Then when they reveal that, of course, now it says 3 of spades in the lighter. Boom. Real magic. Extraordinary with something ordinary. Okay, now, so that's the crisscross force. And the crisscross force fools people every single time. So don't be, if you're new to magic, you got to trust me on this, try it. And so all they're doing is lifting off whatever they want, okay? It's the top card. They put it off to the side, and you use the phrase, we're going to mark the cut. That's the key. You take it, you turn this perpendicular, and you put it on top. Now, of course, that was the top card. So nothing's really, it may strike you, but now you plan a time lapse. If you get their focus off this for 5 or 10, 15 seconds for something else, when you come back to this, and you remember, this is key, do not lift this totally off and point. You want to lift it just a couple of inches, enough so it really gives the impression that this was the card in the middle they cut to. You just lift this just enough to then show, boom. And even that image there really sells the idea it was the middle card, okay? So that's the crisscross force, a great way to force a 3 of spades. Now, we've been talking about the riffle force, and, just to be clear, it's on top, we cut the pack, we keep a little break with our finger, and you want to make sure you don't want to have a bit of a crack at the front there. It's going to give it away. You want to make sure it's really smooth at the front. So the work is to have a smaller break at the back, okay? And even pressing down with the thumb will make sure there's no crack here, okay? What I do is I also tilt it down so there's even left. Put your fingers in front as you riffle. So my fingers now are covering the front edge. Now there's no way anybody's going to, they call stop, and when they call stop, you lift off everything above the break, forcing that card, all right? So you got the crisscross, you got the riffle. I love the countdown force, okay? It's another old school one. The card's on top. Say, let's try something here. Name a number between, let's say, 1 and 20. And they say 14. And you say, great. You're going to do it. What I want you to do is I want to take the cards and count 14 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Just like that, down onto the table, go ahead. And they take the cards and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And invariably, they get to your force card. Now, this is so deceptive. Okay? It's another one of these things that happens right in front of them. Because, of course, if they say 4 cards or 6 cards, or notice I'll leave the card face up so you can see what happens. Let's say they name the number 9. And I say, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to deal down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I grab the cards, casually toss them on top. And that immediately puts the 3 of spades, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, into the 9th position for them to count down to. That's the countdown force. The fact that they can count literally any number, 1, 7, 8, 14, 60, whatever, you could do between 1 and 52, but I always keep it to about half the pack at most. Okay, it just gets a little tedious. So that's the countdown force. Finally, force is the double lift force. Now, the double lift force, what I like about that is it means that everybody gets to see the card. And for that, it's just the top card. Again, they touch any card they want in the entire pack. You spin it out, put it right on top, turn it over, and it's the 3 of spades. So any card they touch, the 3 of spades. It's so fair and magical. I use this one a lot in lots of situations. So it's a double lift. I'm turning the top 2 cards over as 1. But what I like is normally for a double, you have to choose your moment when to get a break under the top 2 cards. All right? Here, the moment happens the moment I'm spinning. I come over, and as I come over and I spin the card out, is exactly when my right thumb just pushes the top card slightly and pulls it back for the break. The whole thing, there's plenty of cover for that. And then I turn the 2 cards over as 1. So those are a few of my very favorite 1-card forces. 3 last tips for you involving this really cool, in-the-hands magical transformation with an ordinary object, a cigarette lighter. The first one is when you buy a cigarette lighter, sometimes it comes, of course, it's going to already have the label off. A lot of them peel off really easily before you then put on these specially printed labels. But every now and then you'll come across a lighter where the darn thing doesn't come across. The original label doesn't come off very easily, okay? It's coming off in pieces and rips. So in that case, get a glass of water and put it, and make sure you fill it up. Not too much. Did I fill that up a little too much? Because then you're going to drown your lighter. But just enough so that you can soak most of the lighter. You can leave it there overnight, sitting there, and the lighter, the top of the lighter is of course dry, but the rest, and you'll find that overnight that'll make it so soft it'll come right off. So that's one tip for you. The other tip I wanted to mention is if you want to make these labels last, I mean, these labels are pretty, I mean, we had them printed on some strong paper. They're going to last a long time. They're super sticky. Once you put it on there, the corners are not coming off. It's going to last a long time. However, if you want to have it last even longer, what you can do is one of two things. Is first, get some packing tape. What I've done is I got this packing tape, and I took one of the labels, I peeled off the back, and I stuck it on here. Now with a pair of scissors, I'll cut just around the label, and it's still sticky, okay? So it's still gonna stick to the lighter, but now it's got this extra coating of clear packing tape, or you could use, of course, Scotch tape. So that's gonna give it, that's gonna make them last even longer, this laminate coating on top there, all right? Or you could even, too, take this as it is and not even cut around it, but just wrap basically put it on here and wrap the entire lighter with a clear tape. Now, if you do a neat job, it won't look like, hey, this weirdo has stuck something. It'll look like the whole lighter and the label is just this single laminate plastic, which looks fine, and that'll last a long, long time. Because when I work in bars and clubs, people are drinking, there's liquid, sometimes the cards get a bit damp, and I don't want I personally use this technique because I want to make sure that even if a drink gets spilled on my lighter, it's not going to totally ruin the specially printed label. So that's a tip for you there too. Also wanted to mention, even though you got a bunch of labels that are going to last you for years and all that, is if you happen to, after a while, after performing this trick and having a blast with it, at some point you're going to have one of the custom labels stuck on a lighter that's going to run out of fluid. And I want to point out to you that you can still use it, especially as the final reveal. Because let's say you have another lighter and you're using it for different tricks. If you want to switch in this for the last and at the very end, then boom, have that magic change happen, this one doesn't have to still be working, okay? So even after you've used it a gazillion times and the lighter is dead, the special label, you can still get some oohs and ahs and amaze people with these specially printed labels.